Hello, this is Dr. Young, and I wanted to create this video because I will give some feedback about APA or writing errors, and I don't mark up papers because that would be, this is not an English class, and it would take way too much time for that. You should be able to proofread, but I wanted to still give some general feedback about the most common errors I see. You might not have a lot of experience with APA style, so I'm going to go over some of that. Mostly when I put feedback that there were writing errors, I'm talking about run-on sentences, missing commas, spelling, capitalization issues, using the wrong word, like effect and affect, for example. Those are similar. A lot of students will get those mixed up, or there and there, things like that. I do expect you to be able to find that kind of issue, those issues. It's really just proofreading, and you can't rely on spell check for some of that. You've got to use your own eyes. You've got to take the time to read the paper. I know a lot of times you get in a hurry. I completely understand that, trust me. I know it, and I make errors too. I'm just saying that if you're, I've got some students that are, they're just really going for that perfect grade. So I'm going to tell you, what I'm seeing. But, try to proofread with your eyes. Just read it. Give it to someone else. Have them read it. I mean, I've read so many papers that I'm sure I've missed some errors myself, because when you just read it over and over and over, your brain kind of skims over it and you miss things. Having someone else look at it, I'm telling you, it does help if you can do that, if you can find someone to help you. I am going to go to the sample APA paper. I don't know if you're familiar with this site, but if you're not, you should use it because it's really good. It's a wonderful resource. The OWL at Purdue. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of it already. But if not, it's a great resource. I use it. I used it during both my master's programs and my doctorate. So I'm telling you, it's probably going to use it again because I'm getting ready to start a new term myself. So I'm still going to school too, or I started again. So anyway, APA sample paper. I'm going to click on this. And a lot of you have gotten feedback about APA errors. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start at the reference list. So I'm going to go at the end. I'm going to go to the end of this paper and find the reference list if my computer will cooperate with me. There we go. There we go. Yep, there you go. Okay. Now, we don't use works cited in MLA. In APA. Let me start over with that one. Now I'm all confused, right? We don't use works cited with APA. Works cited goes with MLA format, which we are not using in this class. This is a common error that I see with students who are using APA, and when you can see the arrangement of the sources are correct and in APA style, but at the top it says works cited. Don't use works cited. It should say references. Not bibliography, not sources, not resources, and not works cited. It just centered and references. That's what you want to title your reference page. If you look down here, you will see that this is an indent. It's called a hanging indent. It means that the first line is not indented, and the second and subsequent lines of the source are indented. Now for this source here, you can see there's just one line under that, but this one has two lines under it, and they are both indented. It's the opposite of a paragraph indent. It's the opposite, basically. You want to do that, and you want to double space between each line. Not each source, but each line, as it is done here. You can see that in APA format, it's very specific with the punctuation. We've got The first initial with the period. Second initial with the period, comma. Next author, same thing. Next author, same thing. The date in parentheses, period after the parentheses. The thing, if you go to the this site, you can find how to cite many different types of sources. Generally, the title of any article is not italicized, but journals, magazines, and book titles are italicized. This is a journal. It's italicized. Another journal. I don't know if there's a book on here or not. I think these are all journals. Yeah. Is at the end of that? Yeah. Well, anyway, if you had a book, the title of the book would be italicized. So, and you can see how they do journal numbers here, which is this parentheses thing. But let me just tell you that if you go back to the Owlet Purdue site, you'll see a menu, and you can see all the different kinds of sources. I might go over that in a minute, actually. Just make sure you have a running head. This is on every page, running head. I'm going to go to the very top, or the very beginning, right here, and a page number. My suggestion is to download this paper and use it as a guide when you're writing your papers. In-text citations, most of the time they're done one of two ways. For example, here's one. I'm going to just take this, Cummings et al. That means that there were more than, there's other authors, but that's the main one, Cummings. I'm going to go down here. See, we see that source, and then we're going to go here and see there was 3 authors, but the way that they write that is just a way to shorten it instead of having to write all of those authors' names. I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to show you. You can cite a source by kind of giving an introduction, and this is what they do here: is in Cummings et al.'s 2002 summary, blah 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 blah. You know, and they describe what they want to, you know, what they used from that source right there. And but if you go down later into this paragraph here, they decided to just go ahead and put the citation at the end of the sentence. So, you know, it doesn't matter which way. It's up to you, really. Just make sure that what I'm seeing, another thing, and let me point this out. Another thing I'm seeing is students mixing up, like you'll get this, the reference list will be in APA format, for example. But the in-text citations will be in MLA format. In MLA, it's the last name and then it's a page number. We don't do that in APA. It's last name of the author, comma, year of publication, comma, page number if that's available. If you're not putting a page number, it's just last name of author, comma, year of publication. And note this, if you get an article that does not have a publication date on it, you need to use N period, D period in place of the date in the in-text citation and in the reference list. You have to put something there. You can't just put the author's last name because there needs to be, that's like a placeholder. Obviously it means no date, but, you know, another thing about sources without dates, if you're going to, I prefer that you don't use a source without a publication date, but if you do, you'll need a retrieval date in your reference list. If you have a publication date, you do not need to include the retrieval dates in the reference list. That's according to the 6th edition APA manual. Okay. Try to use current sources. Try not to use sources that are too old. You know, don't dig up something from the 60s or whatever. You know, I would try to keep it, you know, current. Keep your margins, kind of model them after this. Let me move this over here. Sorry, I'm kind of out of the line. Don't center your reference list. Never center that. It should still be, it should look like this, right here. So I just wanted to give you some tips on that as far as APA style. Most papers, you know, if you write a paper for this class, it should have an abstract. It should model this paper. I mean, as far as format, of course. Headings, you need to use headings. You can see here, look at the literature review, that's a heading. I'm going to go discussion. Within the discussion there are headings, subheadings here. I don't really care. I mean, you're not writing a dissertation or a large paper. I mean, if you don't have subheadings, that's fine, but at least have headings. So, and that's just all. I mean, this is a short little video about, you know, I just wanted to cover some things that I noticed as far as when I've written in your feedback APA errors or writing errors. I just wanted to kind of talk about some of them that I'm seeing so that you're not just sitting there going, well, what am I doing? You know, once you've reviewed this video and you download this paper, you should be able to catch those kind of, the errors that I've mentioned, and also, you know, format your papers more effectively with this guide, this model. So if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. I'll be happy to assist you. And I hope that you found this video helpful. Thanks, and have a great evening.